one of the main reasons of why people go against the Torah is because their soul is impure. Their soul is full of things that, full of spiritual damage they've caused themselves due to immorality. And one of the examples of this is what Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, says in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 19, Ta'avan yeh te'erav lenefesh v'toivat ksilim sur mira. Translation, lust broken or lust overcome is sweet to the soul, but turning from evil, meaning doing tshuva, is an abomination to fools. So Rashi, 900 years ago, clarifies this and says, fools detest the very idea that they should give up their wickedness. In so many words, what Rashi is telling us here is that when somebody is spiritually stupid, we're not talking about fools like someone that doesn't know how to add 1 plus 1. We're talking about people that are spiritually stupid, people that are so connected to their immorality, whether it's immorality of a man, immorality of a woman, whether it's with himself or herself, with other people, promiscuity, all of these LGBTQ and other acronyms they add to themselves every week. All of these types of things create a spiritual stupidity unlike anything else. Unlike anything else. And what ends up happening is that these are the very same type of people that reject the teachings of the Torah and the sages more than anybody else. Why? As Rashi clarifies, they detest the idea. They hate it. They hate the fact that you're even telling them they need to change, because that means that they're wrong. That means that their whole mentality, their whole ideology is wrong. That they have to control themselves is simply not something that they can comprehend or accept. And therefore they reject any type of teachings that will tell them they have to control themselves, would tell them that they have to be, honest with their spouse. They would tell them that they actually have to have a spouse, and so on and so forth. Now, the Gaon Mivilna, about 200 years ago, he interprets this slightly differently, where he says that this great feeling that that Shlomo HaMelech is first referring to, of how when you break a desire and feeling sweet to the soul, this is specifically referring to conquering a lust, which ends up feeling so good that he wants to continue. He wants to continue conquering it because he knows that there's nothing else that will give him this type of pleasure. And that's one of the things we learn from Pirkei Avot, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, chapter 2, verse 4. Nullify your will before his will, so his will nullify the will of others before your will. Well, in essence, what the Gaon Mivilna is trying to teach us here is that if you nullify your will to fulfill every lust that you possibly want, and because you realize that God forbid it, you realize that whether it's wasting seed or the other examples I've already given multiple times, you realize that it's not good for you. We're not talking about it's not good for you just physically. We're talking about it's not good for you spiritually. We're not just talking about it's not good for you spiritually. It's also not good for you physically. Anyone that has watched the lectures that we have about this topic knows full well that there is literally endless amount of proofs that we've brought over the years to show both of these cases. But what ends up happening is that if a person thinks that they can beat it one time and just overcome the desire, they don't have to worry about it ever again. This is a mistake. And unfortunately, what ends up happening at times is that, and unfortunately this is a example that is a painful example, but nonetheless a real life example that just happened a few days ago, where there was somebody that used to come to my lectures here in Florida years ago, maybe 7 years ago, something like that. And this guy was struggling with everything, whether it was with money, finding a zivug. In so many words, his religiosity was upside down. And he grew up in a relatively frum house, relatively religious house. And Baruch Hashem, once he came to my lectures and he realized how, he has to protect his brit and make sure that he has to fix himself and not go and fall for this Yetzirah anymore. And Baruch Hashem, after listening to my lectures and really taking them to heart, this guy turned his entire life around. He got married. I believe he had a kid or more than one kid. And everything went great. Now, I haven't heard from him in several years. And the only thing that I heard is that his father has some really nasty things to say about me and has actually tried to badmouth me to several people, but I never said anything to the guy. I'm not, it's not for me to do. But I was always hoping in the back of my mind that the young guy is still doing well. All I knew about him is that he got married, Baruch Hashem, that he had a kid, at least one that I know of, and everything was going well. Well, this young guy sends me a message just this past Friday, and after apparently seeing one of the short clips that was publicized last week about how I bring one of the teachings of the sages about how Gehenom is the fire of Gehenom never comes out, and in so many words, it's a 1-minute clip that gives people a boost to do tshuva and to really check themselves, regardless of whether they're religious or not religious, but to really check themselves, because there is a judge, there is a sentence at the end for all of us. Well, this guy says to me, I haven't heard from this guy in probably 5 years. You know that there is, you try to teach people to do tshuva by scaring them. You know that there are other ways. So this chutzpan, ungrateful person gives me he gives me musar. What's his musar? His musar that apparently the teachings of the sages that we say are not good. So what was the response? Response is, I sent him the more recent video that we had of the organization's plan, the BH Yeshiva campaign that we have, which talks about all of the amazing things that the organization has already done, which is feed over 160,000 people, give out more than 154,000 books for free, 1.5 million USBs and CDs, and have kollels, yeshivot, Gdolei Adora behind us, Baruch Hashem, and there are literally dozens of them that have made videos for us and letters, all types of wonderful things that obviously have happened to the organization over these last several years. I said, this is what I do. This is what I do. And in order to save the Olam Haba of people just like you, like I did save your Olam Haba, before you became a kfui tova, before you became ungrateful. And apparently even your father doesn't know what you've learned from our lectures. Because if he did, obviously, his opinion would be very different, because he didn't know that his son was in such shambles, spiritually speaking. That was the response, and I have yet to receive a response back. Apparently, he swallowed his tongue. He doesn't have anything else to say. Now, the truth is, Abutai, I know, without a shadow of a doubt, without going into anyone's bedroom, without even asking any questions, that the only reason why this nasty comment, ungrateful comment came out is simply because the same problem that he had 7 years ago came back like a disease that doesn't have a permanent cure. Because this is the attitude, this is the recurring attitude of people that waste seed, that are immoral, that do these types of things. They literally start rejecting the truth because they know it's true, but it requires them to change. Now, rejecting the sages, having nasty things to say about Talmidei Chachamim is not exactly the best idea. Let's just say it that way.